Welcome back from that break, our dear viewers. Before we went for the break, we were discussing about the basic structure.
Yes, we are.
And in particular, we were looking at the issue of the powers of a president, especially the powers that he was given to appoint different officers of the different organs that we said uphold the rule of law. And I think for us to have a good grasp of this conversation, let us go back to the Constituent Assembly. Yes? Yeah. Because, as Doctor said, the Constitution is a structure. Yeah. The structure has, I mean, if it's a building, then it has supports that hold it.
There are specific pillars.
Yes. Yeah. So those pillars right away, in my opinion, were wobbly in the sense that they gave the president as a person all that power. Yeah. The argument could be that at the time we were addressing the issues of how do we prevent people from staying long in power. So we had the term limit and the age limit, and that was exciting, and that seemed like we have solved all our problems. But the truth is that someone does not need 10 years or even 5 years to cause a lot of havoc, to get what they want, to turn us from a democratic society to an autocratic society. Yeah. So how do you think that oversight, I chose to call it an oversight because I see a lot of a spirit of goodwill in the Constituent Assembly. How do you think that could have arisen?
My view is that we were coming from a tough space. The Constitution the Constituent Assembly comes in around about 1994. We have you know, the history. We have the history of the war right at our doorsteps. You still have a rebellion or rebellions happening within the nation. LRA in the north. You have the ADF in the west, and so people needed some kind of compromise. At that time, there is a lot of hope in the new leadership, and you have the background or the backdrop of conflict that has been going on for a long time. People are just coming back to their homes. There's the ADF rebellion in the west. There's the rebellion in the north. People are trying to heal wounds. You have that kind of scenario that is taking place, and there are all these political actors that have come together. And some are arguing that there was some kind of gentleman's agreement that let's first put what divides us aside and try and address the most current situation we have before us. And so the preamble seems to be with that kind of mindset, recognizing our struggles against the forces of tyranny, oppression, and exploitation. You know, we hereby give to ourselves, we adopt this constitution, and so it gives the presidency this benefit of doubt. There is, yes, there are some dissenting voices because not every constituent assembly delegate signed on to it, but there was a general hope from most of the society, most of the nation, that we are in the right place, we are going in the right place. And so the presidency is given all these powers because arguably they want the president to try and address the challenges in the society at that time. But it is fair to say that nobody envisaged what we have today. Nobody envisaged that the occupier of the office of president would have lasted 30-something years. You know, there was an assumption, and there are indications when you look at some of the New Vision printouts at the time. The president is saying, I'm not going to go beyond 4 years, and so on and so forth. And therefore, there is this hope and and support for the regime at the time. Unfortunately, that did not happen. So you have the president is still president, the ministers then, you know, quite a number of them are still ministers today. They are the ones who have the power, and then because of that influence, we begin to see the challenges that we experience right now.
Do you think, before you come in, Michael, sorry,
yes.
Do you think that if the term limits and the age limit clause were not touched,
Yes.
We would not be able to notice the fact that the president has a lot of powers? Or do you think it would have, that fact would have still reared its head?
It probably would have. I don't know whether this question was for Michael or not.
No, I think that
but I'll just say
you.
something, then you'll go on.
Yeah.
It probably would have come up, but not with the amount of fervor that it has today. Because you'd have a change in government.
Yeah.
Quite often, every after 5 years, the maximum period a leader would stay would have been 10 years. And then you have somebody else. And also remember, after 1995, we become more and more aware of the human rights arguments, the constitutional arguments, some of them influenced by society, by globalization and so on and so forth. So I think they would have come, these issues would have come up, but because they would have been addressed elsewhere, they would probably not have as much fervor as they have today. But Michael may have a different opinion.
True. Okay, but before I answer that one, I think I'll go back to the previous questions, the powers of the president, why he could have been given all that power. I think we also have to remember the crisis that happened between Obote and the Kabaka in the 1960s. Now, that one occurred because there was, the people weren't exactly sure about who held what power. And this constitution actually answered that question. Give an individual all the power to, a lot of power to prevent any confusion from arising. Okay. At least that is why I think the president ended up getting a lot of power.
So in other words, still we were trying to address issues we had in the past.
Because when they say remembering our history, it's quite a bit of a history.
Oh, yes, it is. Okay.
Yeah, then the second, the bit that we're just talking about.
We still have noticed that the president has a lot of power?
Let me first go to physics on this one.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
The law is hard enough.
No, but the law, you can even apply physics in the law.
Yes, you can.
Yeah. Okay, now that is what I'm going to attempt to do. There is what they call Murphy's law in physics. And it's a science thing, Murphy's law. Basically saying anything that can happen will happen. So at a certain point, we don't know when, we don't know where, this situation would have arisen, like Dr. Reza said. But again, like he said, it wouldn't have been to this extent. Because the idea of constitutionalism is that people keep on expecting something to happen a certain way. And if it doesn't happen that way, the people of Uganda would be very aggressive. Look at what's happening in America right now. Their standard operating procedure is that after you lose elections, you concede. They are not like Uganda where you have to go to court on every single point. But in this situation, the president, actually, I feel President Trump that was really Ugandan. The President Trump decided not to concede, but has instead filed a lot of legal challenges. Now, what happened when he did that? A lot of voices started coming up demanding that he concede because that one is the way America operates. It's a habit. When it comes to rule of law, if you break any law, no matter who you are, you have to face the law. If you are elected, if elections occur and there is no rigging, you have to concede. Now, it's something Uganda is going to eventually come to terms with. I mean, we have had one president for a very long time under this particular constitution. It is inevitable that there's going to be a change in power. Now, when the change in power happens, you'll find that the strength of constitutionalism will start to shine through.
Hopefully.
No, definitely. I believe this one unequivocally. The moment the leader changes, a little bit of the rule of law starts to shine through. We have a lot of problems today. The level of corruption that exists today is because of the lack of change in power. Because you'll find that, okay, now that one is a little bit political, it's not the law. But what I'm saying is that if a new leader comes in, the judges who were appointed by the previous president will carry out their, will make their decisions, the decisions that would be made.
We'll have more flexibility.
Yeah, there'll be a lot more flexibility.
Okay.
Yeah, but to be fair,
Yeah.
we do have a lot of change happening, especially for the members of parliament. I think according to the statistics, almost 80% do not necessarily return after every 5 years. And you know, even a lot of power is at the local council level with the LC5 chairperson, having powerful and very huge budgets at that level. So even if you look at it at that level, you can say, okay, change is happening. We have to give credit to the fact that the 5 years always enable some kind of change in constitutional leadership of the nation.
That
yes,
is
while
true.
it is true that at the national level we still have some kind of struggle that is taking place regarding whether or not we ever see peaceful handover of power of government, especially at the head of state. But at the local, yes, we've seen a lot of changes taking place at that level.
So, your parting shots on the rule of law?
Well, first of all, I think it is very important for us to recognize the fact that there is a huge duty on the government and maybe the Electoral Commission to do what we call civic education. And we like to appreciate the media for, you know, what they are doing in helping people appreciate and for you to break down the aspects of the law. That is still lacking in a material particular. Translating this constitution into different languages, I'm told it has been done. I've not yet seen a constitution in my language. Yes.
In town,
yes.
in town,
yes,
and they didn't have copies.
Okay.
So
yeah, so you know you need to do this, and interestingly enough, when you look at objective, I think it is 19 or 29. It is talking about certain duties of the citizens, you know, which have not yet been broken down and explained to the citizens. Objective 29 of the national objectives and directives of state policy that tell, you know, that citizens are supposed to be patriotic, loyal, engage in gainful work, among other things. So there is a lot of work that is needed to decipher this information in the Constitution. A lot of it is very helpful. You know, we touched a little bit about the case for the women, the children. A lot of it is very good and is directed in the right path. It's just that what holds sway in the media is the president has not yet changed. But yet there is a lot in the Constitution which, if the citizen would be told more about, they would be better placed in knowing what are their duties, what is required of them, how, because the citizen, for example, is supposed to promote democracy and rule of law. Article 17 of the Constitution is talking about cooperating with lawful agencies in the maintenance of law and order, you know, and this is still under the ambit of rule of law. Now, if a citizen does not know that he has a duty to cooperate with lawful agencies, how is he going to know that if we have not told him? So a lot of civic duty is required by our powers that be to teach, to educate, to help people understand. And we shall continually be fighting or hitting brick walls until people are informed about this constitution.
Okay.
After they are informed, when they are knowledgeable, then we can start talking about are they compliant or not. But right now, we need to inform them.
Information. Michael, anything to add? Really, really, really short.
Okay. To comply with the host, all I have to say is this. Everyone out there, to the person watching this show, the thing is, the law applies to everybody equally. The way it applies to the president is the way it applies to you. You might be sitting right now, you might be standing. The law is equal to everybody. Now, you keep on hearing about the Constitution in passing, you see the book somewhere, but the fact is that book governs you. You need to have a look at it, you need to read it, and then discuss it and understand it. Because once you do, you will know that you have more power than you think that you do right now.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael. Thank you very much, our viewers, for your time, for being with us. I hope you have learned something about the rule of law, and that you shall use this information to hold your leaders accountable and yourselves as well, eventually, in order to promote the rule of law that we have seen is very important to allow the Constitution to operate and for the spirit of constitutionalism to thrive. Until next time, I am Ategeke Stella Felicity, and this is Breaking the